reading some stats the other day. They said 43% of kids in the U.S. are fatherless. Almost half. And that's physically fatherless. How many of you think that the dads are just absent mentally? Like not there. I don't know if don't raise your hand on this, but I know when I was first introduced to life, I would be considered an absent father, I think. I'd work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, usually weekends. I'd come home, watch the football game. Maybe anybody else can relate to that? That's kind of where I was at, and I read that quote, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably more like 80% of the men are absent if you look at their actually mentally being there. They said 90% of kids that run away are from homes from without a dad. 71% of pregnant teens lack a father. 63% of suicides come from homes without a dad. And I read those stats in this book, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks to realize that we're important. Like, it's important the role that we play as dads in our kids' lives, isn't it? And I remember reading a book, and it was talking about, raising daughters. Anybody just have daughters like me? All right, look at that, a bunch of about raising daughters, and it said either they're going to marry a man like you because they like you, or you raised her the opposite of you. I remember thinking, that could go bad either way, right? I remember thinking, I don't know where that's going to go. But I looked at all those stats, and in the book it said, or I read this actually, I think I found this online somewhere. It was this quote, and it was out of a book called Parents or Prisons. It's a great topic, right? It said, without two parents working together as a team, the child has more difficulty learning the combination of empathy, reciprocity, fairness, and self-control that people ordinarily take for granted. If the child does not learn this at home, society will have to manage his or her behavior in some other way. He may have to be rehabilitated, incarcerated, or otherwise restrained. In this case, prisons will substitute for parents. Now, that's a scary thought to even think about what could possibly happen. How big of an impact that we have. And yeah, there's tons more stats. I don't want to go through all the stats that I could talk about, but all the stats point to, I know Chris Brady gave a talk a couple months ago, I believe it was at a men's leadership, and he was talking about how when they study the differences of moms and dads and different things, it's usually the lack of the problem of the father that's causing the issues, isn't it? And it's so scary to think. I mean, I remember, I can still remember the first child we had. I was 23 years old, and we were holding my daughter, and I remember just still having her in my hands as a 23-year-old thinking, I have no clue how to raise this being. Right? I remember kissing her on the forehead thinking, good luck. Yeah, for her. But I had no clue. It didn't come with an instruction manual. There wasn't any counseling I was given on the side. There wasn't any thought. But I realized at that moment I was given a blank canvas of a life that I was going to leave my imprint on, that I was going to start to direct and guide and help her through her life. And I was terrified. Because I don't know, has anybody in here maybe not had the best example of a dad? Right? A room full of this, probably a lot of us haven't. And that could be a great excuse for somebody to say, I never had the example. It was interesting. I got together with a buddy of mine that I haven't seen since probably about my freshman year of high school, and he ended up getting started in life, and he's been learning the materials for the last couple months, and we had dinner the other night. And he was talking, he goes, man, do you remember growing up together? Neither of us had parents anywhere. We pretty much ran ourselves. We ran the streets. We just pretty much had fun. And we're remembering back all the things and all the parentless moments we've had, right? And all the trouble we got into. And what's kind of interesting is back at that time, we kind of had each other to hold each other accountable. And so we kind of kept each other out of, we were both in sports, so we kept each other out of enough trouble where we could still play sports, but we were pretty much getting in trouble all the time still. And had no parents in our life, no direction. And he was sitting there the other day, and he got tears in his eyes, and he said, man, he goes, before I got introduced to this, before I got introduced to these materials, I was headed so far off track. He goes, I was headed in a direction that, I started to realize I was just winging it. I had 3 kids, and I had no idea of where to get my information from, who to look towards, what to say, what to do. And he's going through and all these things he's telling me. And with tears in his eyes, he's like, I just thank you so much for introducing me to this life, to give me the materials that can help me through this.